Well, we are sat in the new Tata Harrier EV, and in the past we have had multiple experiences with the car where we see it conquer the terrain and we see it conquer tech, but we have never really driven it. So today we're going to see if it can conquer the third T, which is traffic, because we're stuck in one. That's how we're going to start this video. So what is the new Tata Harrier EV? Well, it is Tata's most ambitious EV yet. And it's not a Nexon or a Punch with a bigger battery pack. It is the first electric SUV in the Tata Motors portfolio, which is with the Acti.EV Plus architecture, which is a software-defined architecture. It is the first fully electric platform which is capable of a dual motor or an all-wheel drive setup from Tata. It gets level 2 ADAS, it gets 540-degree cameras, it gets remote summon, V2L charging, and even in-car UPI payments so that you don't have to load a wallet every time you want to charge your EV. Now on paper, it sounds like a showcase for everything Tata Motors can currently do. But underneath all that tech and capability lies a very simple question. Is this a good SUV? And today, we're going to find that out. But before I start with the driving and the performance, the ride and the handling, let me do a quick recap about what it looks like from the outside. Visually, the Harrier EV stays close to the ICE Harrier with key details that distinguish itself. There's a blanked out front grille, a sleeker aero-optimized R19-inch alloy wheels, even a full-width connected LED bar at the front as well as at the back. The stance is wide. In fact, the EV is visually broader than the diesel, and it looks especially commanding in the matte black Stealth edition, with logo projectors on the ORVMs and flush fit elements giving it a cleaner edge. But beyond the cosmetic changes, what's clever is how the Harrier EV has been aerodynamically tuned for EV efficiency without losing that muscular SUV silhouette. It's not radical, but it's recognizably bold. Over on the inside, you're greeted by screens and ambient lighting and a general sense of Tata showing off, because it gets a 14.53-inch Neo QLED LED infotainment screen, which is a world first from the company called Samsung. And it's crisp, it's colorful, it's responsive, though the brightness under direct sunlight can sometimes wash out the deeper tones. There's also a 10.25-inch digital cluster and a phygital panel with haptic buttons for your climate control and your drive modes as well. It also gets wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. The cabin materials are solid with well-finished soft touch points and Tata's familiar sense of durability. That's the ADAS telling me I shouldn't look that much into the camera. Apart from that, you have a flat floor in the rear which opens up for legroom thanks to the non-existence of a transmission tunnel, and there are details like power boss mode seats, 65-watt USB Type-C chargers, cooled armrest storage right over here, and sunshades that add a real-world comfort. That said, the interface can be overwhelming at first, with Arcade.EV apps, map integrations, voice assistance, and remote control functions all coexisting. There's a learning curve with this car, especially for a user who doesn't live on smartphones and technology. Now let's get to the performance bit. The headline numbers are impressive. The top spec empowered quad-wheel drive variant comes with a dual motor setup, one at the front axle, one at the rear, and it produces a combined 504 Newton meters of torque, which results in a 0 to 100 time of 6.3 seconds claimed by Tata, which is quite quick. Not rip your face off quick like some global EVs, but more than enough to surprise an ICE counterpart. In the city, the Harrier EV's boost mode and instant torque make light work of overtaking and gaps in the traffic, but the throttle response is still progressive enough to not feel jerky even in stop-and-go conditions. And you also have 4 different levels of regenerative braking. You have off, 1, 2, and 3. The third one also enables you to do single pedal driving. Now out on the highway like we are, it cruises silently up to triple-digit speeds with enough mid-range punch to overtake without any effort. The ride is generally composed thanks to the independent multi-link rear suspension with frequency-dependent dampers, which, although are sharp, it still registers potholes with a thud. And that's because of the 19-inch wheels, which look great but reduce the sidewall compliance a touch. Now in terms of the ride and handling, let's not pretend this is a corner carver at 2.2 tons of weight. The Harrier EV is genuinely not something I would call a dynamic SUV in the traditional sense, but body control is decent and even impressive at times for this size. The steering, it is light and predictable, though it is devoid of any real feedback, but is expected from an EV SUV. It shines in confidence and not in cornering. There's no float, no nervousness, and if you do go off the tarmac, it gets 6 different terrain modes, including rock crawl, mud ruts, and even a sand mode as we tested at the BIC. It works impressively well. It also gets 47 gradability with water weighting up to 600 mm thanks to it being an EV. It also gets an active torque vectoring, and the Harrier EV isn't really afraid of getting its wheels dirty. That said, with low range gearing or locking differential, it's best described as a confident soft roader rather than a hardcore trail machine. Now coming to the range and charging of the new Harrier EV. Tata claims a certified range of 622 kilometers on an MIDC cycle for the 75 kilowatt-hour variant. In mixed real conditions that we face on a day-to-day basis, you can expect anywhere between 475 to 500 kilometers of range on a single charge. That is, if you aren't really using the boost mode or pushing the air conditioning and the ventilated seats. In terms of the charging, it gets 120 kilowatt-hour DC fast charging, which advertises 250 kilometers in a 15-minute period, which is under optimal conditions. At home, you get a 7.2 kilowatt-hour AC charger, which fills the battery in around 10.7 to 11 hours of time, which is fine for an overnight charge. It is not revolutionary, but it is on par with the rivals. Where the Harrier EV really edges ahead is because of its V2L and V2V capability, which can power your campsite, recharge another EV per se, or even charge your laptop at a shoot. This SUV can do it all. Now this is where things get dense. The Harrier EV, it tries to do everything and mostly succeeds. For example, you have level 2 ADAS, which includes 22 safety features like your adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, your blind spot detection, AEB for cars, pedestrians, even cyclists, and more. It works reliably in most situations, but occasionally shows a minor phantom warning here and there, especially in dense traffic. Now what it also gets is an auto park function that you can just press a button over here. It'll start scanning for parking spots. Once it sees a parking spot, you can accept it using the infotainment screen. What you can also do is step out if it's going to be extremely tight and you won't be able to open the door. You can step out and use the smart key, which has 8 different buttons as opposed to the normal 3 ones we're used to, which is lock, unlock, and boot release, or a headlight button. This has 8 different ones because you can use this to move the car ahead, move the car behind, park it, all using the small key fob. Next up is DrivePay, which is a UPI-based in-car payment system, and it's more like a party trick wherein you can go in the infotainment screen, look up for chargers, you can sort them by the speed of charging as well as being UPI enabled. So you can just go up to the charger, plug it in, select the units of charge you want or the amount you want, or just select full charge, and it'll tell you how much you need to pay. Instead of loading your wallet with balance beforehand, you can directly do the exact amount of transaction just using your UPI, which makes life a lot more simpler. But besides that, there's also the Arcade.ev app, which is a suite for videos and games and your OTT platforms, which is great in theory, but best left to passengers or when you are stationary, because you shouldn't be focusing. As you have seen today, when I look at the camera every time, the car starts beeping to remind me to look ahead. Now coming to the safety, and as we all know, Tata is not going to compromise here because the Harrier EV has received a B NCAP rating of 5-star rated safety, as it comes with 7 airbags as standard, electronic stability control, and disc brakes all around. Tata's safety reputation holds firm here as well. The structure feels solid, the braking response is sharp but doesn't have feedback, and You have added visibility from the 540-degree camera setup. The blind spot monitors make maneuvering this 2-meter wide SUV very easy than you would expect. But is that enough? And which variant should you actually buy? So here are the prices. The Harrier EV starts at Rs 21.49 lakh ex-showroom for the base Adventure 65 variant and goes all the way to Rs 30.23 lakh ex-showroom for the top spec empowered 75 quad wheel drive Stealth Edition, which has all the gizmos and aesthetic you would need with the optional extra of the home charger as well. Now, having said that, what is my verdict after driving the Harrier EV and experiencing it multiple times? Well, it isn't perfect. It's heavy, it's packed to the gills with tech that might overwhelm first-time EV users, and it's not a budget EV by any stretch. But what it is a confident, capable, and quietly ambitious EV, as it takes Tata's learning from the Nexon, the Punch and the Tiago EV and throws in everything the software team could dream up and package it into something that feels like it belongs on both the highway and the showroom floors in 2025. Now, if you're looking for a proper electric SUV, one that feels like an SUV, rides like a big car and even comes loaded with features you don't know that you actually needed, then yes, the Harrier EV is absolutely worth considering and a definite for a test drive at least. With that, if you have any more questions, do let us know in the comments below and we'll do our best to answer them. And as promised, we will be doing a range test in city conditions very, very soon. Thank you for watching BBC Top Gear India. We will see you guys next time.